There's more.
First on the agenda is,
Well, we have new minutes, but I don't think I put anything on for minutes because I didn't think they'd be ready. We surprised ourselves.
yeah, well, we have Mike Martin here, so why don't we just amend the agenda as written? Because we still can't do the September 25th, 2014 meeting
Right.
minutes yet. So we'll put those in the back burner and,
Do you have dinner planned in the gap?
and why don't we move to talk to the superintendent of schools, Mike Martin? He sent us some information. Come on up, Mike.
I have some extra copies. I didn't know if the C.I.P. committee members needed a set.
I'll always take an extra copy,
Yeah,
so I have
so
one
we
I
can-
didn't scribble all over.
Good. All righty. All right, we got a cover letter from Mike, so Mike, if you could just explain to us what you did here, that'd be great.
Okay. I used the handout that you shared with me about Newmarket's manual for developing CIP plans. And in that manual, I discovered that there were two large categories of plans, at least as I interpreted the manual. The first was capital equipment, which had a 3-year life and a $10,000 value. And I provided for you, with respect to that, a asset packet with $25 million that was the total of the pages that are attached in your packet.
25 million?
25 million?
2.5 million.
2.5 million, thank you.
That's okay.
Yep. Also in the packet, I provided some forms of how much we're funding in the operating budget. I think if you look at the bottom of that, I have an underlined amount in the operating budget of $140,000, which looks like a page like this.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
And that $140,000 would replace the capital assets, even though some of them are only going to last 3 years, all in about 20 years. Some of the capital equipment assets do have a long life. I will suggest to you that we have no intention of buying a group of desks or bookcases or other assets of capital equipment that would have a 3-year life. We just couldn't do it. We're finding that the cost of some of our electronic stuff continues to decline. We do have a technology expendable trust. So I at this point felt not capable of providing the committee with any information regarding whether we needed more money than the $140,000 as enclosed.
And Mike, where is that on this sheet that you gave us? Oh, maybe.
It's a sheet
It's
that looks
this
like
one
this,
here.
and it's underlined 140,000.
Oh, this one here. Okay. Oh, no, he was
And
showing
then
us
you
this
have-
sheet.
I was showing
Here's
you
a
this
budget.
short.
Then he has a budget sheet. And I apologize if the pages got mixed up
Okay.
in the version that I copied.
I just don't see it on. Maybe it's-
It's right before the table, the list of assets. Keep
Okay.
going. Should be there.
I think
Oh,
it's
it
the
is.
other-
Okay.
Okay, it's the last page on that.
This one?
No, next
Two
one,
of
there's
three.
another one in.
Over. Two of three.
It's our form, Rosie?
And what-
Is it-
was there a
is this the
3
one
of
we're
3?
looking
140,
I
it's
didn't get it.
underlined. Okay, there we go. Super.
for? Right, and there's a
Okay.
Got
corresponding
it.
one of these things that has 140 each one. Okay.
Right, I did do that. So as I understood that, that was our capital equipment budget total we ran off what we do, what we run for an annual budget for that. The second item, which was in your manual and was capital projects. The manual called for capital projects lasting more than 10 years and costing at least $50,000. Since a building is kind of like a system, the work of Randy Bell was to get a proposal, and I used that proposal. I have no idea if this proposal is acceptable or not acceptable to the community, but if you go into that proposal, you'll see a budget draft here.
Yep.
Okay, and it has two columns on it. It has a column for the high school and a column for the elementary school. And I brought those numbers forward as an outline for capital projects.
That was the 18, the 13 million and 3 million
Right, the
change,
18,
okay.
right, the 18, on the cover sheet I listed 18,311. That's a transposition of the second page of the budget.
Okay.
There's a second page of the budget, and I brought that forward.
Yep.
In a question, is that the dollar amount that was in the warrant article to float the bond, warrant article number 1? Wasn't that the same dollar amount? Christine shaking her head yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I thought it looked familiar.
Shaking her head yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So these two numbers combined is what
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
dollar amount on the warrant article for the bond that was voted down at the school board meeting on Thursday.
It was
Okay,
voted down.
down, okay.
yeah,
very
there
good.
is no bond warrant article.
Okay,
So I brought those forward. Again, those numbers make me nervous, but they've been serviced. They're the best information I have at the time if we were to do an ad reno.
right.
There are some people who, again, prefer tuitioning, and there are some people who, again, prefer new construction. I assume that if it was tuition, it would be a whole different other calculation, because we'd be spending money on tuition costs and not money on buildings.
Exactly.
Somehow embedded into that tuition cost would be something on buildings, but not as though we would know at this point.
Yeah.
So I gave you that, and then on the last pages, I gave you the CIP forms. Christine assisted helping with the costs. The first CIP form that I got for you is for
Is that the ongoing replacement stuff of
Yeah.
140?
on the elementary one, you should delete FY16 and transfer that to FY15.
On which one?
On the elementary.
Oh,
you
the
should
elementary school.
The elementary, on FY16, the $500,000.
Yeah.
It's on the wrong sheet. That's the elevator.
Okay,
And that should be FY '15.
No. It should go to the high school page.
oh, to high school.
Okay. So this is the elementary school page. Gotcha. All right.
Okay, so
Thank
that should
you.
go to the
High school.
junior, senior
All right,
high
so
school,
cross
so,
that out.
Yeah, and that $500,000, it should be your last page.
and that go, and we
And
put
then
it on
that-
the. school.
Right, on the high school is an expendable trust.
Okay.
FY 16.
Yep.
Yes, but it goes
Okay.
under the expendable trust column. We put it,
Under other. Okay,
we typed in on the elementary school, expendable trust.
gotcha. All right.
We typed in that, and so that line
Okay.
descriptor would go to the
Other
high school.
expendable trust.
It's the dual-purpose trust.
Yes, sir. Yep. And that's to keep the, well, if you want to be dramatic, that's to keep the building open in September, which I think at this point, probably that's gonna happen.
Okay.
You know, that work is beginning, and that money is there, and it was estimated to be more. We worked very hard reduce the cost and to put the elevator in a spot where you can access all 6 levels potentially. There are 6
Okay.
levels in that building. The elevator would have 4 stops, it would be much like Town Hall. It would be a half a level. There's a half a level down to the basement, then there's a full level to the first floor, and then a full level to the second floor. So the elevator would be located. If you want to look where that elevator would be, there's an X on your floor plan. For the high school, it's not a good X, I
Newmarket
guess.
Middle High School.
That little X there in the middle.
Yep, yep, yep.
If you look at the one, Newmarket Middle High School,
It's got to be first floor. Be right there.
I don't know if I, this
Yeah,
one.
you've got it right
Okay.
here.
Oh, gotcha. I see
Somewhere.
it.
Oh, right there, that's
Yep.
the X, okay.
Okay, good.
Yep.
and if
Yep.
I remember
It's
from,
currently, there's 2
I'm not
levels
sure
to
I
the high
gave you,
school.
I'm not sure I gave you both
Right over
levels.
here. Yeah.
I think I missed a sheet.
Okay, I have copies, so I made copies of everything else, so I'll have it somewhere.
Mike, if I remember from prior discussions though, and I don't know if we've done this in CIP, this may have been in the budget side, the location of the elevator that they're gonna be working, I guess, this summer is placed where if there's an add reno to the building, this is where the
Would
elevator.
be anyway.
It's not spending funds to put it in a place, we don't know if it's gonna be useful later. They're specifically putting it in a place that can access all floors and is in the core of the building so that
Yeah.
it's not a wasted expense.
And was there any way that we could not do this because of the JAC committee convening and hiring these consultants? You know, just like our water treatment plant. You know, EPA had all these restrictions on them, but we're showing good faith, so they delayed.
We have a number of problems. We have a fire safety problem, we have an ADA problem.
Right.
We have
That's where the elevator comes
We'll
in.
have chair-bound students in the high school next year. Currently, they cannot get to the gymnasium unless they go outside.
Okay.
The fire chief wants the chairlift moved out of the central stairway near the office that runs up and down the middle of the building, and if you run that chairlift up through that stairway, kids can't exit through that. It's a major exit for fire safety, so we have a whole series of problems, and even if we tuition kids 9 through 12, we either got to add space to the high
Elementary.
school and close one building, or add space to the elementary school, and
Okay.
the elementary site is very restricted.
You
So-
kind of feel confident that even though everything's up in the air, that we'll still make use of that elevator?
Well,
We hope.
I don't know,
You can't tell.
because the number of wheelchair students coming is not, we may have one next year, but I believe the year after we have one, or the next couple of years. I think we have 3 scheduled to be in the high school
Yeah.
in 3 or 4 years.
I mean, we could just have someone with a broken leg or just an accident.
Oh, that's another problem, yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
so
it
it's
is.
something that has to be
Yep,
done. We can't
yep,
wait.
Yep,
And it's not an elementary school issue because it's one floor.
right. So that's the stuff I was able to collect since last week. I hope it's helpful.
Very good.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah.
Question, if
Sure.
I may? As I was telling Mike before, the more information we get, it tends to generate more questions, not less questions, but at least they're more specific. The budget report that you gave us that came to the 140,000 of the current budget, the 2-page printout which identified the new equipment acquisitions, that's in this current year's budget, not next year's, right? Okay. And
Wait a minute, I don't know, I'd have to go back and check the column with its current or proposed.
said for
Current
period.
total budget.
Current total budget, thank you, Ro.
Yeah.
And since it's in the operating budget, I'm assuming that all this equipment, whether it would qualify potentially as capital expense from a trust fund or not, all this is budgeted as operating expense today.
Yes.
So the 140 exists. So in the future, as we're having the discussions, if we say, gee, we should fund the furniture and equipment fund each year by X, and then you'd withdraw from that fund like a CIP would work, then this money may potentially transfer out of the operating budget and be a CIP, addition or subtraction type thing.
Yeah,
But right now, it isn't.
right now, we have a lot going on, Russ, with building projects. And building projects, sometimes you get some capital equipment inside the building project. Sometimes you would get new desks or new chairs, and that shifts things around. Secondly, as decisions are made, I would assume this report gets amended all the time, or at least maybe on an annual or semi-annual basis. I would hope it gets looked at before 6 years is up, because I think there'll be a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't read in the instruction manual, the process of how frequently you do this.
Every year, we update the 6-year schedule.
Right. And I think right now, we've got quite a few trust funds, and we've got quite a bit on the table flowing.
Absolutely. We're
Yeah.
not saying do anything now, but
No,
as we think
no.
about how best to
Right.
communicate on this in the future, this may serve as the basis to get into a regular
Exactly.
CIP
This can
discussion.
be basically a baseline that we can build off of and ask for more information and glean the information that you've given to us already. Jane, any questions?
No, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Judy, any questions? And, because we plan on having more meetings in April.
Okay.
Once, everything's after the elections and all that. And we want to learn more about the CIP program ourselves and plan on having some meetings. I invited the school board, budget committee, whatever.
Okay.
So we're going to try to have some roundtables to that effect, and to learn exactly. Like, for instance, I even noticed on the asset sheets, the school asset sheets, that you still have the firehouse building listed for $250,000. We sold that many years ago. We don't own that anymore. And we have, I think we have the wheelchair lift listed twice for $7,900.
There are two.
Oh, you're kidding me? I didn't know that.
There are two. Right now,
Okay.
one is pretty defunct,
Yeah,
but there's a wheelchair lift that goes up the center stairway,
okay.
and then there's a wheelchair lift at the end of the hallway that would take kids down to the level of the gymnasium.
Okay,
And that has not been operational for quite a while, from what I
Right.
understand, and it's a much smaller lift, but both are in the building.
yeah,
And we'd be doing away with both lifts if we
if you do
locate-
the elevator.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
And Rosie, just to your comment that the spreadsheet that I gave you is our asset spreadsheet, I use that for two purposes, one for our audit and two for insurance purposes. So there's many pages that I didn't give you because we really go down to $250 just for insurance purposes if we have a
Oh,
fire,
okay.
flood, or whatever. So we keep it all together. We're undergoing a transition because our current asset software is no longer being supported, so we're changing. And so that's one of the projects that we're doing right now is we're slowly taking off and depreciating and looking at what assets currently are not even in this
Oh, that's great.
facility.
Yeah.
So it is slightly outdated, as well as the current assets that we have for this year, they're not on there as well. So you may not see some of the things that we just recently purchased.
now,
It's
now
not
with
up-to-date.
with the new software you're getting for the assets, you're gonna be able to, like, I work up at UNH, and they'll have tags, scan tags
We already
on
have scan
equipment.
tags.
You have all
We
that
already have
already.
that ability, and we
Oh,
have
good.
tags on everything.
Yeah.
Excuse me, everything. The problem is that, like, there's a communication that we need to finesse, because if there is an old IBM CPU that might have been junked, no one ever reported that to the business office.
Okay.
So we still have it. So we're going through building by building, and
Oh,
our goal is to
super.
do at the end of this school
Verifying the
year.
list.
And pull it all together, finesse the report before we import it into a brand-new software, because we don't want to take trash to,
Right.
so that's what we're currently doing right now. So.
Now, just a request, as you go through this new asset software and you go building to building, could you glean and keep in mind the requirements of the CIP and utilize that information so you don't have to go back to it again for the CIP and put it down for CIP as well as what your needs are.
Of course.
You know, you kill two birds with
It's
one
perfect
stone
timing.
that way. It is. I mean, if you're gonna go through all that, that's the perfect, because now that you know, and you could even do a little more research yourself as to the CIP requirements, you know exactly what we're looking for here, so that would be a big help.
Yep.
A lot less work at the end of the year next year. Yeah? Russ?
Yeah, a couple things. I didn't have a chance to go through it, so I appreciate Rosie going through the details, and I can understand if it hasn't been looked at in a while. So I assume it's not part of an audit process every year that they're verifying the capital asset run.
No, that's not true. It is, we are audited every year,
Right, no, I know.
so it is part of our process. It's just that it's not up to date. The auditors haven't looked at the older stuff. They only look at the within 5 years
Okay.
of what our assets are. So we
Okay.
just haven't done a lot of the cleanup. We are more focused on about adding things than we are removing things, because there's a process in which we have to do that in the current software. We can't just say terminated. We have to go figure out if we can find out when the date was, and there's a process to that for our records. So.
Yeah.
And is the new system that you're getting one that integrates with any of your other systems to transfer information, or is it sort of a standalone?
Unfortunately not.
module?
We
Okay.
tried that because our technology department has their own asset tracker, but the two cannot talk. There's no way that they can communicate. So we tried that, and then the system that we have they're independent. They just don't work like that.
Will the new one be able to talk?
No,
No.
no,
still
we
can't-
couldn't find
still
one that
can't talk to
existed
each
to
other.
talk to what
You have.
our technology department wanted, what we wanted. We tried to see if we could find one that would do both, but they just
Yeah.
don't. Because
Yeah.
they're more of an in and out. They want to check out a computer for the day so they can track it that way. We want to track it, okay, so if it's in the first grade classroom, it's here this year, but it could get moved to grade 3. So we have to change it in our system as well. There's no way for the two to talk.
Right.
Does this system, does the current one and the new one either, do they have a useful life and depreciation methodology in either of those systems?
Yes, they do.
This one does as well here. Okay. And the only reason I say that is because we just got from the town as well. We're not just asking you, we've asked the town for an asset listing as well. And they apparently have a system that sets up a useful life and depreciation, though I don't think either of the operating budgets carry a depreciation expense. It's more just of an internal
That's correct.
system.
Yeah.
But the town does have one. So if you're looking at a new asset system and the new asset tracking system doesn't feed any other system, if it's going to cost real money, you may want to check with the town and see if their asset system that has some of those features. I could understand if it was going to feed 17 of your other systems and
Yeah, we
everything
didn't go
was.
with all the bells and whistles. I'm sure you could get one, but we just found something that would just, is feasible for what we need for the size that we are. We
Yeah.
usually only do it for reporting purposes, for the audit and for insurance purposes and tracking, so that's it. So I think we spent a couple $100.
Okay,
It's not a,
gotcha. It's
not a software like
major
an Encode or
module.
anything like
Okay.
that, no.
So,
So that, now Russ, with you being on the budget committee and Diane with that 140,000 that they have listed as CIP, but in their operating budget, just,
yeah, it's the way they've always done it, which
Okay.
is, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean,
you
you
don't
guys have
mind.
either
That's
trained
right.
me or not. Though they have trust funds, they basically, unless it's a major equipment acquisition, budgeted their equipment replacement and furniture replacement right out of the operating budget. And at the end of that budget process, it seems to me that if they say, oh gee, we got to spend a lot of money, let's go grab some of the trust fund that may apply to that and take some of the money out of there rather than charging it to operating. But they haven't really run a consistent CIP where, what we're saying by the CIP is that each year, as part of your budget, you determine whether you'd want to add money to your existing trust funds. Okay? Just be based on the fact that you see needs happening in the future and let's put money away. That's part one of the process. And part two is, how much are we going to spend out of the existing trust funds this year for equipment? And as a result, that doesn't go into the operating budget. It actually isn't an expense, it's a withdrawal from the trust fund that you already have the money from.
so is this, so that leads to my question, is this 140,000 you have listed here, is that being taken from trust funds?
Nope.
or
No,
It's
It's
in,
raised through taxation.
purely in the operating
In the
budget.
operating
It's
budget.
in the operating budget. We don't we have 6 trust funds. So, before, and these all existed before the CIP was created. And so we can start doing things differently now. But the main one I'll give you an example of is the School Technology Trust Fund.
Yeah.
We're utilizing that this year for the FY16 proposed. You see that we reduced our operating budget by $32,000 because the intent is to pull it from that trust fund.
Is that all the money you're spending on technology this year, is just that
No, it's
32,000?
in addition to. So it's whatever we have in the proposed budget, I don't know that number off the top of my head. And then we requested an additional $32,000 to come from the trust funds rather than raising it through taxation.
Okay, well, because I know I would feel comfortable requesting that for next year's CIP, that items like that would not be put in the budget under operating costs, that all those items will be pulled from whatever trust funds you have for that specific reason.
But, so, let me just play devil's advocate and make sure I'm understanding here. So, I'm just gonna use the number. So we had $140,000. We don't have $140,000 in the School Technology Trust Fund. So I couldn't make that happen, even if I had the funds, so I get what I think your point is. You want us to utilize the trust funds that we have with the money that we've already raised and put aside, either through fund balance or through previous year's taxation.
Right.
And we're doing that now, and we've always done it. It's just that we don't have the trust funds to do all of it. We have a special ed, we have a dual purpose, which is only for a specific purpose. So we need to get a little bit more broader with the trust funds.
Yeah, it would be a philosophical, I think, the way you apparently have ever put money into the trust funds, most of them, is there any surplus in the year? And does a portion of that surplus go to a trust fund? The only one that I'm aware of currently that you've taken other steps is the dual purpose fund, which you created the fund about 2 or 3 years ago, and you've had a specific warrant article that's raised $500,000 to $1 million a year to put in there. What we're talking about is a change, and it really doesn't change any of the things other than the structure, would be to say each year you'd come to CIP and you'd say, if 4 of my funds, as we've talked about, are CIP, the school expansion, the technology, the repair and maintenance, whichever of those, you'd say, do I need to fund any more money into that this year? If I do, I need to grow it because I see the capital needs. You'd have a warrant article that would say, I need to raise $100,000 for this particular trust fund. And then separately, you'd say, you and the school board would say, we're going to spend $65,000 this year out of that trust fund on related equipment. The 100 is raising it for the future and building that balance. This year's decision is we'll charge that fund $65,000.
So are we all set for this year?
Oh, yes, we're
Okay.
gonna, we're gonna say fine.
And we're going to have meetings in April.
We're gonna have meetings in April.
And we're going to talk about next year in April.
Cross all the Ts and dot all the Is, and all these little questions, because to some people, if you've got 140 in operating budgets and you didn't deplete your trust funds, they're gonna say you're raising through taxation what you already raised, and it's there, and why, we're paying twice. So,
That's for the people to solve.
no, it's for us to solve.
Okay. I thought it was the voters.
Well, we want everything in the right columns and
Sure.
and everything done. So
Agreed.
it's a learning process
Sure.
for all of us. But no, you are definitely all set. I appreciate the
Okay.
extra meetings and the extra information you got to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Great work.
Beautiful. That's good. Okay, now,
Minutes. We can't do minutes.
we
have
still,
new
you
minutes.
can do the new minutes.
Yeah, if people want to
from
take a few minutes and
January-
read them. They're hot off the press.
Yeah,
Roseanne and I worked on them.
the amount of information that gets put out 4 hours before a meeting or less.
Oh, I thought I already passed those out, I'm sorry.
I
I
actually
don't-
printed it out and read it.
Yep,
So we could take 5 minutes and review them and
Yeah.
approve them.
and,
And then we'll be done until April.
yes. Hallelujah.
So the November 25th, we're still putting aside.
Yes, we still,
No, September.
September 25th, 2014, we have to wait because we need either Phil. Did anyone hear from Phil for this meeting?
No,
No, I'm sure
but
he's
he
getting.
wasn't at the last one because he's working on trying to deal with his father's issues.
Yes, and his
And he
upcoming wedding in
apologized,
the
and
middle of
then
February.
I don't know if he was even aware that we had a
Had
meeting
another
other than,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
agenda that went
Yeah.
out on Friday.
So suffice to say that Phil's excused for this evening and for last week as well. Family issues?
So what about this, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
What about this kindergarten warrant article? Is there one or not?
Basically, there is,
Yeah, tonight they'll be.
they voted down the warrant Article 1, which was for the bond issue for the junior,
Yeah.
senior high school and
Yeah.
elementary. They still have the warrant article. Nate made a motion, I guess, to keep it on there, but to maybe lower it to $1, just as
just
a
to-
litmus test to
yeah.
see. But I think it should be worded completely different.
This
That
is the kindergarten one?
the kindergarten, it should be completely gone.
Currently, it's there now. We got a copy of the warrant articles. They'll be discussed tonight at the Budget Committee meeting. It's a public hearing on the town. They listed technically 5, but I think 4 warrant articles, because the 5th one says any other business that comes up. One is the operating budget, which also
Right.
includes the default. One is $314,000, the way it's stated now,
For
for
the
a full-day
kindergarten.
kindergarten. A third is 50% of any surplus
That doesn't
from
need
this
to be-
year, no more than $100,000 would go into the repair and maintenance fund. And the fourth one is 25% of any surplus this year. They're not voting on a surplus in the future, they're voting on the surplus for this current tax year. Up to 50,000 a quarter would go into the technology fund. So those are the 4 warrants,
Those
the
are the
operating
4.
budget,
Yeah.
the kindergarten. And that's what they're presenting tonight. Now, whether the discussion in the Budget Committee and with the public will be to recommend changing that warrant article.
But I mean, it would be good to change that warrant article just to have a non-binding referendum as to whether or not the town would like to have all-day kindergarten. No dollar amount, no $1 that can be changed, up to $314,000 at the deliberative so that it's gonna start. We don't even have the rooms for these kids, as far as I understand.
Yeah, and I think
So-
that'll be discussed tonight. It seemed
Yeah.
to have a lot of discussion at the school board.
Yeah.
Where there wasn't a lot of specific information
No, it
on
was
how many
very
kids
vague.
were going to attend and things like that. So I imagine it'll be discussed tonight, and where that'll come out with public input and
Yeah.
all that. That's up to the Budget Committee or the school to withdraw it and come back with a revised warrant.
Yeah, and even the fact of using impact fees for payments for the modulars, we've shown a decrease in, because I stayed at that meeting last time, we've shown a decrease in kindergarten enrollment. And in order to use the impact fees, it's for an increase
Right.
in population and demands because of the increased population. We've shown a decrease, so I don't even know if they can use that.
You know,
money for that. So it's.
Interesting question. I'd
they
say,
should tread lightly.
from a
with that
Budget Committee
warrant
point of
article.
view, as I understand it, our role tonight is either, if we're asked to vote on a warrant article, we have to vote whether we support it or not.
Right,
We can give input, but it's up to the school
to change it.
to either change it, withdraw it,
Yeah.
Is tonight the
replace it.
last night that the school, no, the school has until the 20th?
As I understand, and I, speaking with Steve and Mike, and because I thought there was a concern, the way I originally understood it was tonight was the last night they could bring out warrant articles because they had to post them by tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Apparently,
Okay.
that's not exactly true. Every day is a new experience with the same law. Apparently, if there was to be a bond issue, the bond issue warrant article would have to be put forth tonight
for
and then
tomorrow.
posted for
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. But if I'm understanding this correctly, if it's not a bond issue, then they may have another week to finally
Okay.
publish the warrant article. And then there's a third catch-22 I just learned today. The catch-22 is if, for example, they voted on the school voted on the $314,000 warrant article for the kindergarten. They are allowed to change the dollar number lower between now and when the deliberative session is without causing the warrant to be posted, to have going through a posting and a notification process. So once you post the warrant article, if the entity posting it is going to reduce the number between that and the deliberative session, they can do that by vote,
Okay,
but they don't have to notify the
Yeah.
public. But if they're going to increase it, then they have to start the whole process.
and I think the only reason they would have to do only if there was a bond by tomorrow is because you need a allotted amount of time to have bond hearings
Right, right.
prior to the election, so.
So that's my current
All right.
understanding. If we have
Okay.
another meeting next week, I'll probably have a different understanding, but
Tomorrow, you can't.
every day is a new adventure when you ask the
And
questions.
everybody, do I have everyone got a chance to read the minutes?
Yeah.
And do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 5th, 2015?
I will so motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, very good. And was that it, Diane?
I had one thing I
sure.
just wanted to bring up quickly.
You got the assets from the town,
Yes,
got that, okay?
and lost it, so it
Oh,
was
And
given
Diane
back to
showed
me.
me
gave you a copy.
the information
I'll have copies
about
of-
libraries.
I showed
Right.
Rosie the memo I
okay.
sent you.
And that's all I was going to bring up. Diane is good enough to work with me. We've got a list of about 4 or 5 questions.
Uh-huh.
We just wanted to get all the library questions down on, is there a CIP fund? Is there a trust fund? Are they separate? Who funds each
Yeah.
one of them? When are those used, for inside or outside the building? So Diane's helping me draft the questions,
Yeah.
and whether it goes to Matt or Steve or another person, we don't
Right.
know. We're going to try to
We
track
have
that.
to get some information.
So in the
on
next
them.
month or two, we're hoping to put to bed the library questions
Yeah.
that we've always,
Wes, are you doing that for our committee or for the
yes,
budget committee?
for CIP.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understood what
Yeah.
committee you were talking about.
Hopefully, it's useful for both,
Yeah,
but
it's-
For
I think
everybody,
it was-
I
The
think.
question way
Yeah.
back in September, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
we want to try to get it
Yeah.
clarified for him.
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
That whole thing is,
so you'll see that when we
Thank you.
get it teed up. I think you may have seen the draft questions so
Yeah.
far.
and then, I mean, we might even go to, try to get some information on RSAs and what the laws are and read it over
Oh, yeah,
ourselves and
because,
then,
It's very
and then,
odd that they can keep unexpended funds.
yeah, and then maybe go to a library, the trustees meeting and ask questions and try to get clarification as to how they understand their requirements. And then we can get maybe some legal, once we go through all of this with the school, the library, then maybe we can get a list to John and say, John, can you ask these questions and be very succinct, the town attorney, and get the real information that's legally binding.
So it doesn't easily happen, but the hope is that we'll nail down the specifics of exactly how it's supposed to work, so we won't
We're
spend
gonna
the
do that
time
with
doing it.
every department. We're gonna take our tours and, nice.
But
We got a
They're gonna
lot
love
of
you.
work.
They're gonna love us.
I just want to let you know I was following up on your request of me and
Good.
bothering Diane.
Very
That's
good.
fine. We
Great.
got it under control.
Yes, we do. All righty, so I think we did a very good job this year. We asked a lot of questions that weren't asked before, and I think as we move forward in April, we can,
Well, I like the fact that we took the time to do it, because I've been on this committee when we had 6 weeks to do the whole thing.
yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't enough time.
I mean, we started early, and I plan on doing that next year, that I think the committee should look into putting as much time into it. And, if you do all this preliminary work, it makes the work at the end that much easier.
But I think the key too is the continuity, right, of the committee. If it's someone new every single time, you have to serve like for 3 years. So a year of learning and then 2 years of really making a difference.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I don't know how the town feels about that, but I do think this is not something that you just do and then you walk away
No,
from
this
it.
is long-range planning.
Yeah, it is. It's whole roadmap development. It's all of that. So
Yeah,
I
and this
agree.
is something in your vein that you mentioned at the January 5th meeting, Jane, is to talk to the town council, which was a great recommendation, to see what they suggest we do to make it easier for them.
Right.
That could be a recommendation to the town council, which would would make it easier for us is to have the same people on the board for a few years at least.
Yep,
So,
continuity is important.
Well, that, and, you know, as we finally got asset listings, if there are asset listings, both for the school and the town, that are up to date, and they have a useful life and depreciation schedule to them, not that that's perfect, okay? If you think about what we're asking for CIP, if, you know, Public Works had a report that said, here's my list of 17 assets from front-end loaders to whatever, here's the year they were acquired, here's the straight line depreciation.
Right.
That's a starting point.
yeah,
Now, you may say, well, this asset's being overused, so we need to increase, but the depreciation on a straight line basis on that asset listing would be what you'd normally want to contribute to the capital reserve every year.
right.
Adjusted for,
Yeah.
oh gee, we need to expand the pool of equipment, or we have another 2 years of this thing, we don't have to buy it now, we can push it.
And the town council over the last 2 to 3 years have been asking very detailed information, especially because, well, DOT, Public Works, because they have the most equipment and vehicles. They want to know the age, how many miles, how much it cost in maintenance. So they've been getting all that information, which is really
And if that's
helpful.
out of the asset system, there should be a report that gets you step one,
Yep,
and then the discussion about actual condition, or
Yeah.
do you want to expand the fleet, or do this, would be step two. And then it should be a fairly rigorous,
Would agree.
easy process without going back and forth saying, can we have a list of this or have a list of that, if they use the
Right.
asset control
so
system.
do I have a motion to accept the CIP as presented by the school this evening? Should we do, I think we should do a
motion.
motion on that.
Have a motion. on
That was satisfied with the information given to us in regards to the CIP
It's a great start.
from the school.
Yeah, great start.
Russ,
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
make the motion, second.
I'll second it.
Jane, second.
I don't know if we have to put in the motion that it satisfies,
We feel, the committee feels that it satisfies the requirements of the information needed to procure a CIP.
right,
Okay,
whatever the appropriate wording is.
right, okay.
I recognize that may be different from the impact fees and how they're using them,
Yeah, that's
but
a different
as far as
Yeah,
qualifying for
it has-
CIP,
We feel they've qualified.
they've
More than enough.
certainly come a long way.
Yes,
Who
very good.
seconded that? I'm sorry.
Jane?
Jane.
June, I called you another name today,
Listen, I've been
June.
called a
Yeah,
lot of
we
times
have a
Joan
new
name, Joan,
Most I
June.
Last
can't
week it
share.
was Joan.
Joan, yeah, I
Joan,
answer
June,
to
and
everything.
Jane. It begins with J, so give me
That's right,
credit
that's
for
good,
that.
I'm good.
And we have a second, and any further discussion on that? And all in favor? Aye, very good.
Excellent.
And can we look for a motion to adjourn, or is there anything else anyone else has to say?
Go ahead, Russ, I'll second it for you.
I'll motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. I'd like to
Thank you very
thank
much.
everybody. I think
Now I
we
have
did
another
Good
hour to
job.
read all the budget information I got from tonight.
Yeah, so what do we have, something like, the town has like a huge number of warrant articles because of some change in the requirements?
We
Yes,
have
of
to
the
go back
charter.
and get all the capital reserve funds reestablished, and each year an appropriation of funds, until the
The-
charter change goes through.
yeah. What they found out, they were notified by the state
Yeah,
that summing up the CIP into one number and putting it as part of the operating budget, though they did that for years,
Yeah, it
was incorrect.
yeah.
So now
You
that
can't trust that
they
legislation.
changed the charter, this year they need to have an individual contribution per CIP fund as an individual warrant article. So this fund, that fund, everybody gets, just like the schools sort of, okay? And then they're hoping they're gonna change the charter so that they can go back and do it in a somewhat easier way and not have 13 warrants.
Yeah.
But boy, that's gonna be a lot of voting. A lot of
Oh,
work.
it's gonna be a long deliberative session, yeah, I'd say so. But,
Well, even when you get into the election, people standing there going,
oh,